In this video, I am going to discuss some of the powers and functions of the Indian President. The Indian President is the elected head of the state. All executive actions are expressed to be made in his name. According to Article 53, Clause 1, the executive power of the state shall be vested in the President and shall be exercised by him directly or through officers subordinate to him in accordance with the Constitution. This provision permits the exercise of executive power vested in him by the ministers and other officials. Though the Constitution vests many functions in the President, he has very few functions to discharge in his discretion. He acts on the aid and advice of ministry, and therefore the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers constitute the real and effective executive. Under Article 73, the President is entitled to exercise executive functions with respect to all those subjects which fall within the legislative sphere of the Parliament. Now let us consider his executive powers. Some provisions in the Constitution confer on the President some specific executive powers. They are as follows. Firstly, the appointment of higher authorities. The President has been vested with the power to appoint various higher authorities like Attorney General, Controller and Auditor General, the Prime Minister and other ministers of the Union Cabinet, judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts, governors, members of the Union Public Service Commission, election commissioners, etc. He has the power to appoint commissions like Interstate Council, Finance Commission, Commission for Scheduled Tribes and Backward Classes and Official Language Commission. That is the Official Language Commission. He has the power to enter into contracts under Article 299. He has the power to give directions to the states in certain circumstances under Articles 256, 257, 339, Clause 2, which the states are obligated to obey. I will be dealing with the analysis of those provisions in a separate video at a later time. As mentioned earlier, Article 53 confers executive power on the President in a general way. As a result, he has unspecified reservoir of powers and functions to discharge. The executive power is not defined in the Constitution, and hence the scope of executive power is residual, and as the Supreme Court has held that the power which does not belong to the legislature and judiciary belongs to the executive. Now, let us consider his military powers. Under Article 53, Clause 2, it is provided that the President of India is the Commander-in-Chief of the Defence Forces. The President appoints the Chiefs of Army, Navy and Air Force and is empowered to declare war and conclude peace. But all these can be exercised under the supervision of the Parliament, and the Parliament regulates the exercise of his powers by law. Next, he is vested with the diplomatic powers also. The Indian President is the head of the state and also known as the country's first citizen. The President is India's representative in international forums and affairs, where his role is primarily ceremonial. He is in charge of sending and receiving ambassadors. All foreign treaties and agreements are signed on a President's behalf and must be ratified by the Parliament. In practice, however, such negotiations are normally conducted by the Prime Minister and his cabinet. The President may also send and receive diplomats. Next, let us deal with his legislative powers. The President is one of the components of the Parliament, and he has many important functions to discharge regarding legislative powers. Under Article 85, the President has the power to summon the houses of the Parliament that is, order the houses of the parliament to be present. He may time to time summon each house of parliament to meet at such time and place as he thinks fit, but 6 months shall not intervene between its last sitting in one session and the date appointed for its first meeting in the next session. The President has the power to prorogue the houses of the parliament, that is, to discontinue the session of the parliament without dissolving it. The President also has the power to dissolve the Lok Sabha. The dissolution of Lok Sabha leads to holding of fresh general elections. The Constitution also provides for joint sitting of the two houses of the parliament. That is, under Article 108, it is provided that under certain specific circumstances, the President has the power to summon a joint sitting of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The joint sitting is presided over by the Lok Sabha Speaker. Thus, the joint sitting is meant to resolve any deadlock between the two houses that arises over passing of a bill. Article 87 specifies the special opening address of the President to both houses of the Parliament assembled during the first session after the general election to the House of the People. Next, commencement of the first session of each year, where both houses of Parliament are assembled together, the President will address. The President needs to inform Parliament of the causes of its summons. In the case of the first session, after each general election to Lok Sabha, the President addresses both houses of Parliament assembled together after the members have made and subscribed the oath or affirmation and the Speaker has been elected. In the case of the first session of each year, the President addresses both houses of Parliament at the time and the date notified for the commencement of the session of both houses of the Parliament. In this session, the government outlines its programs and policies through the President's address and highlights the steps taken by the government from the previous years. Following the President's address, a motion of thanks is moved by the ruling party in the two houses of Parliament. Members debate, support, or move amendments to the motion in the houses. Next, Article 86, Clause 2 confers the right on the President for sending messages to either house of the Parliament. The message sent may be related to a pending bill or other matters. The House must consider the message with all convenient dispatch. The right to send messages by the President regarding legislative matters and other matters may seem superfluous, given that in the Indian parliamentary system, the President is represented by the Council of Ministers and acts upon its advice. It's very clear from Article 74, Clause 1. Further, sending of a message that is in contrast with or negates the policy envisaged by the Council of Ministers may give way to friction with the Cabinet, which exercises the actual powers and influence on the legislative matters of the country. Under Article 80, Clause 1, the President has the power to nominate 12 members to the Rajya Sabha. These members are persons with substantial and special knowledge or practical experience in the fields of literature, science, art, and social service. Article 331 provides that if the President is of the view that the Anglo-Indian community is not adequately represented in the Lok Sabha, he can nominate not more than 2 members belonging to the Anglo-Indian community to the House. Next, laying reports before the Parliament. The President in his power and duty causes the laying of the following reports in the Parliament. Laying means submitting them for the consideration of the Parliament. So, what are those reports? Firstly, the annual financial statement, which is popularly called as a budget, and a supplementary statement. Secondly, reports of Auditor General relating to the accounts of the Indian government. Thirdly, annual report of Union Public Service Commission. Fourthly, reports of Finance Commission along with the explanatory memorandum of the action taken on the recommendations of the Commission. Fifthly, reports of special officers of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Sixth, report of the special officers of linguistic minorities and backward classes. In respect of certain bill, previous sanction of the President is required. There are certain bills on specified legislative matters that require the previous sanction or the recommendation of the President before these bills are introduced in the Parliament. These matters on which the President's sanction is required are, firstly, bill relating to matters listed in Article 3, that is, formation of new states, alteration of boundaries, changing of names of existing states, etc. The objective of requiring presidential recommendation is that the views of the states that will be affected by the legislation are considered before the bill is introduced. Secondly, a bill for any of the matters specified in Article 31A, Clause 1. Thirdly, a bill which, if enacted and brought into operation, would involve expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India. Fourthly, a bill or an amendment that concerns Article 274(1). This includes a bill or an amendment that affects imposition on or variation in any tax or duty in which the states are interested. Lastly, the state bills on matters listed in Article 304, in which reasonable restrictions on the freedom of trade, commerce or intercourse with or within that state that may be required in the public interest are present. Lastly, the presidential assent to a bill. When a bill is passed by both houses, the bill is sent for the assent of the President. In the case of a money bill or a bill passed at a joint sitting of the houses, the Lok Sabha Secretariat obtains the assent of the President. The bill becomes an act only after the President has given his assent to it. Article 111 entitles the President to take the following actions when a bill is presented for his assent. Firstly, he may give his assent so that the bill becomes an act, or declare that he is withholding his assent to the bill. Thirdly, in case of any bill other than money bill, he may return the bill for the houses to reconsider. He cannot return a money bill for reconsideration. He may either give assent or withhold the assent, but cannot send it back. In almost all instances, the President does give assent to money bills in India. If the Houses pass the bill again with or without amendments, the President cannot withhold his assent to the bill, which is other than a money bill. The President, however, is bound to give his assent to a constitution amendment bill passed by the Houses of Parliament by the requisite special majority and, if necessary, ratified by the states. The President has the power to make regulations for the peace, progress and good government of the Union Territories of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman, Diu and Puducherry in special circumstances. In the case of Puducherry, the President can make rules for peace, progress and good government only when the Assembly is dissolved and suspended. The President has limited veto power, that is the power of the President to withhold his assent to the bill. Article 111 gives this power. The existence of veto power ensures that there is no hasty or ill-considered enactment of a legislation. With this, I conclude this presentation. In the next video, that is which will come in the form of part 3, I shall deal with the pardoning power of the President. With this, I conclude. Thank you. And once again, I request the listeners, especially the students, to subscribe to this channel if you have already not done it, because it is it will be definitely useful for you to in the preparation of your examination or for the examination. Thank you.